Welcome back, once again adventurers, to Let's Play ChäoS Head. In the last episode, Takumi managed to race away from Yua over at that cafe and tried to find a refuge at the park to kind of catch his breath. However, there was definitely something shady going on at that park. There was a police officer who seemed quite surprised when Takumi gave a form of identification in the form of a student handbook. And also one of the drifters turned out to be somebody who was either an informant or a tail. Which is why Takumi has pretty much been running non-stop throughout the most of the streets of Shibuya, but whoever is after him is still following him, which brings us to here, where Takumi managed to find himself in front of Gigantes, the concert venue where Phantasm and Fizz were. Feels like a lifetime ago now.
私についてきて。
And talking of which, the female voice that brushed my ear without warning made me scream pathetically and whirl round. The one standing there was Fez, garbed in the flashy clothes meant for her live shows. That it is. As she stood quietly in the darkness, looking down at me, her form lacked the erupting power it held on stage and instead appeared ephemeral. Since it was dim, I couldn't scope out her expression. While I remained stupefied by surprise, Fez quietly extended a hand towards me.
だって、早く。
Her tone was disinterested, but she gave off the sense that she wouldn't let me say no. Still holding out her hand, Fez slowly turned her head and narrowed her eyes, as if to see into the darkness. Or through the darkness.
逃げないと。
Seems like Fez's keen eyes have spotted the tail. Why? Did she know I was fleeing Yua and the police? I was worrying for her for a second, but right now she was literally offering me a helping hand. Probably a good idea to take that helping hand. And so I clutched at Fez's hand. It was cool to the touch. As soon as I stood up, Fez started running. In my state of irrevocable exhaustion, nothing could have seemed more hateful. But if Fez hadn't been there, I might have failed to stand up again and stayed there until the police caught up with me, or whoever it is who's after us. If possible, I wanted to rehydrate, but I understood that we couldn't afford to do that. Fez continued steadily, pulling at my hand. We entered narrow alleyways and turned at countless intersections. I'd absolutely no clue where I was running. To safety, hopefully. Even under normal circumstances, I had little knowledge of the lay of the land at Shibuya. At this point, I had no choice but to go wherever Fez took me. What if this too were a trap laid by Shogun? I started to think, but I shook my head to rid myself of such thoughts. She might be a bit strange, but Ayase can definitely be trusted. Even with Fez if Fez was working under Shogun, there was nothing I could do about it anymore. Lactic acid had built up in my feet, making them heavier. My consciousness was wavering, as if running too much were keeping enough oxygen from reaching my brain. I was on the brink of whining things like, I can't run anymore. Which would make more sense if we actually had more air in our lungs, but we don't. Maybe I'd unconsciously blurted it out countless times already. Even so, Fez devoted herself to continuing forward without looking back at me once. Before I knew it, we'd come out to a road with the Shuto Expressway running overhead. Though Shibuya Station was right in front of our eyes, there weren't many people around here. Without a moment's hesitation, Fez began descending the stairs that led to a yawning underground opening. We stopped at last, upon reaching the bottom of the stairs. Well, if our would-be pursuers would actually deign to go down here, we could still be in some serious bother, but if they decide to give up the chase, that can only be a good thing. Wheezing, I let go of Fez's hand and sank into a crouch on the stairs. I wondered exactly how much I'd run today. Far too much, in my opinion. It might be the first time in my whole life that I performed so much physical activity. I think you probably ran once before. And even Fez is fairly exhausted. For some time, all that could be heard in the dim subway with its melancholy ambience was the sound of Fez and I breathing. I looked up in the direction of the entrance we'd come down from, but I couldn't detect any pursuers. Well, that's a relief. Did that mean we'd somehow managed to escape them? I hope so. Even so. It was the first time I'd heard of this part of the subway. Plus it should have been pretty close to the train station, but there wasn't a single person passing through. One of the fluorescent lights illuminating the tunnel was on the verge of dying out, and it busily blinked on and off. The smell like rotting garbage floated faintly in the air. It was the sort of place that symbolized Shibuya's underside. If someone attacked me here, my voice might not reach outside no matter how much I shouted. It wasn't a place I wanted to visit alone. As I went on breathing even harder, I took a look at Fez's profile. Now, little bit of a heads up here, adventurers, in this particular pathway. Actually going to take the negative, well, I say negative, but you'll see why. I'll explain. I'll explain my reasoning for doing that. The charismatic diva of the indie music scene, who even now was making the young people of Shibuya go crazy about her. A person they called a prophetess. That Fez was together with a gross otaku bastard like me. It felt kind of strange somehow. Well, you have to remember the fact that Fez in real life is also Ayase Kishimoto, senior classman, or no, not even that. She's actually in the same year as Takumi Nishijo. We encountered her there before. Sweat seeped out of her forehead and ran in droplets down her cheeks. She wiped it with the flat of her hand. Each time she breathed, her chest rose and fell, peeking out of her camisole. A healthy sexiness lay hidden beneath her atmosphere of ennui, or however you pronounce that. Moe. No, that wasn't quite it. As I thought at first, sexy would be the most appropriate description if I were to put it into words. Mizumi-kun had said this to me before, but Fez had a great sense of style. She didn't stand out all that much in her uniform, but I really got it when I saw her in her close-fitting close-fitting clothes like this camisole. And she was tall, and she had a nice moderate bust and an amazingly narrow waist. Most importantly of all were the legs jutting out of the miniskirt. Sleek and long, slender and firm. Like those of a model. In fact, she could actually be a model as such, if she were actually interested in that, which I sincerely doubt that she is. A racing swimsuit would really suit a stylish girl like her. No, but wait a sec. A school swimsuit might work unexpectedly as well too. To see the cool Fez wear a school swimsuit. The gap between the two would push me over the edge. Well, for all you know, she could actually take up swimming lessons at Sume Academy. Hey, what kind of moronic stuff am I thinking about at a time like this?
追われてたわね。
Fez bring us back to reality by getting right to the point.
え、うん。
警察。
I nodded an answer. Yua was also chasing me in addition to the police, but I was too exhausted to have any energy left to explain this.
私も同じ。
So it appears that someone is after Fez as well. Huh? What was that supposed to mean?
私が書いた歌詞と、なんとかって呼ばれてる事件との関係について。だって。
Of course. So the police have now been searching on our channel and have found the similarities between Fez's lyrics and the staking murder.
しつこく聞かれたわ。
So pretty much Takumi and Fez are now in the same boat, which is not much of a consolation, but I suppose it means they have something in common after all. New Gen. The lyrics Fez had written and content of the sequence of cases matched up almost perfectly. Which is why her fans were shouting those rumors from the rooftops, that Fez was a prophetess.
私、疑われてるみたい。
Again, Takumi and Fez are pretty much in the same boat. As a new gen criminal. I'd been the same the first time I saw Phantasm's lyrics. To the point that I'd wondered if Fez were Shogun, or even the devil girl who turned out to be Rimi, who turned out not to be a demon girl. But when I thought about the fact that she'd saved me, it made me guess that maybe things were a little different. Even so, why had Fez been there? Her saving me had just been coincidental. Yeah, that's right. Come to think of it, that encounter at the school could be chalked up as coincidental, or maybe not. Considering that the club she performed at had been right in front of my eyes, she must have had a show today as well, after all.
君が追われてるのは、なぜ？何か悪いことでもしたの？
She seems oddly direct with Takumi there.
チクられた。
Although Takumi's response is going to be difficult as usual.
あの女、僕のことチクったんだ。ニュージェネの犯人にされる。
As crazed as Takumi is right now, he does have a point. If Yua goes to the police with her current theories, that will pretty much make Takumi Nishijo prime suspect number 1. as being the new gen criminal. Yura was attempting to frame me. Damn it, thanks to her and Sogan, my life was on the brink of destruction.
そう。容疑者候補ね。私たち。
Pretty much, couldn't have said it better myself. And yet she finds something oddly amusing in all this. How can you laugh about it?
僕は無実だ
I grew overexcited and shouted. My voice echoed loudly through the subway tunnel, but I couldn't stop myself.
事件を目撃しただけだ証拠品を勝手に持ち帰っちゃったけどそれだけ
Takumi blurting out all that he knows.
僕殺してない
それなら
Fez murmured, returning to her indifferent tone.
きっとそれは導きなのよ。大いなる存在による。
For some reason, Fiz's tone seems to have changed yet again. Another mental patient? Another Holden Caulfield?
君の見たものが事実だったか幻だったかは些細なこと。
That brutal spectacle had been an illusion. Was that even a possibility? It had seemed so very real.
君が今抱いている苦しみや怒りは必要なものだったということよ。
What was she saying? Well, I wouldn't be surprised if she actually dabbled in the occult herself. However, how disappointing. I sort of sensed that when I went to a concert, but Fizz really was quite the tinfoil hat type. They say geniuses and lovers are just a hair's width away from madness, but I think the saying there's hair's breadth away from madness.
だから早く見つけてケン見つけて
We've heard this from her before. My breath caught. Before this, when we met at school, Fez had said to me, "Finding your sword will save you." Fez had said the same thing before. What scared me far more than the police were Shogun and his underlings. I didn't know why, but they were clearly and maliciously attempting to set me up. Well, someone clearly is. But I don't think it's Shogun. What I needed to save myself from their menace was... What I needed to protect myself was...
Disorder.
Indeed. However, there is one slight problem as far as our D-sword is concerned.
そうよ。
Fiz's lips contorted in the shape of a smile.
勉強したみたいね。
それなら手に入れた僕はディソードを持ってる
Not quite.
今家に
知ってるわ。
She knew. How did she know?
見たから。
So she was watching us and we didn't even realize.
君が渋谷のど真ん中を歩いていたのを大きなおもちゃを抱きしめて恥ずかしそうにしてたわね。
Oh dear. She was talking about the day I bought the D-sword. So she just happened to be in the area at that time. To think that Fez had seen me. No, hold on a second. What had Fez just said? I think we know full well.
おもちゃ
This smile had already vanished from Fez's face. She gave me a short glance and let out a light sigh. Her attitude was so listless it started to make me feel insecure.
偽物だと思うわ。
You think it's fake? I think we all know that it's fake. Nothing more than a cheap imitation of a medieval legend.
あなたの買った剣は
I wasn't at all surprised. I could have predicted it. Compared to Senna's sword, the one I bought was simply too cheap, and it didn't shine. Anyway, given that it was a sword so amazing that Fez claimed it would bring me salvation, the prospect of finding it being sold for 10,000 yen along other toys for grown-ups was far too lacking in romance. Which is why I wasn't surprised. Instead, a tumultuous fury surged inside me. Fury at the glum-looking female clerk who deceived me. Fury at my pathetic self for being deceived. Fury at Fez for insinuating this and that without giving me clear answers. I stood up and drew closer to Fez. Something my normal self would never have been capable of, but right now I was desperate. Until a short while ago, I've been exposed to the overwhelming terror of being pursued by you and the police. Not only that, I'd experienced countless unpleasant emotions over the short span of this past month. I did more than enough. In order to return to my peaceful lifestyle, I had to get my hands on a sword, no matter what.
教えてよ理想のどうやって手に入れるのか
Maybe Fez can provide us with an answer, or maybe not. If she can't, Takumi's hopes will be further in the gutter than they are now. But that is going to be it for this episode of Let's Play ChäoS Head, and when we return, adventurers, we shall have an answer, one way or the other. As always, until next we meet.